What is up, guys? It's Jake from Team Insanity. We are back in the studio. Our little house here went under construction, so we didn't really have the storage room turned back into a storage room, so we had a bunch of crap in here, so we couldn't do any type of video shooting for like a month or two. So that's why not many reviews came out. We did like a few we did a challenge outside and all that stuff. Sorry about that, but we are back at it. And we've been getting a lot of questions recently about, not necessarily quite, well, we've been getting a lot of what is the bore size questions, and we've had a lot of people saying they're having chopping issues. So I'm going to be talking in this video a little bit about the difference between chopping and barrel breaking, and also how to fix barrel breaking, and also all about bore sizes. So this is a video generally for a lot of you people, even people that are already into the sport and you don't know much about bore sizes or anything like that, and you have your guns and you just don't know all about it. I'm going to be touching on a little bit of everything, but first I'm going to be going into, people keep on saying, oh, my gun is chopping. Okay, it's in the middle of August right now, and especially in climates like us, like where we're at, we're in Michigan, you know, basically Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Florida is another really big one, and basically all those states in between, and even, you know, like Canada, probably all those, for all my Canadians and all that. You guys, you definitely know how humidity affects things. Okay, now people in like Texas, like Eric Yee, and all you guys that are in like Arizona, all you guys don't really know much about humidity necessarily, because you're like out in the middle of the frickin' desert, and you guys don't have much humidity at all, if any, this time of year. So you just kind of have to keep your paint stored away in you know, in the shade, and make sure it doesn't get sunbaked and hard. But for all of you guys that like live by us in all the other states with lots of humidity, you're going to be noticing that your gun is maybe chopping paint. Okay, well, here's the thing. First, you have to figure out if it's chopping or barrel breaking. Okay, there's a few different ways of doing that. One way is basically seeing, one of the easiest ways, if it's not in the breech or if it's not on your bolt and it's just down the barrel, normally that sort of means you're probably not chopping. If it's caped and if it's all like in your eyes and everything else and up your feed neck, then you're probably chopping. But if it's just strictly in the barrel, that was one of the things that was hard about my DM, is because it had the eye pipe, it would squeegee itself, which was really awesome, except I couldn't tell if I was chopping or barrel breaking. That's a side note. But for all you guys that don't shoot the eye pipe guns, you're gonna have to first figure out if it's chopping or if it's barrel breaking. Okay, if it's just all in the barrel and it's not in the breech and in the feed neck and all that, if it's not in this area of the gun, you're most likely not chopping. And then like, even if it's just a little bit on the bolt tip, that's normal. But if you have it like all over your bolt and your bolt is caped in paint, you might be chopping. Completely different video subject, not even to go into chopping. I'm talking about barrel breaking. Okay, so all you guys, like I mentioned, that are in those climates that right now in the middle of, you know, even sort of at the end of June, at least for Michigan, Michigan's not hot at all. We get like an 80-degree day and we're like sweating bricks. Okay, but the thing is that it's really, really humid. Right now in August, we're hitting like 70-80% humidity sometimes during the day. So that really affects paint. With that humidity, the balls are going to swell up. Okay, a lot of people don't know that. Paintballs are really, really affected by weather. The more moisture and the more humidity there is in the air, the more that water-soluble gelatin that the paintballs are made out of are going to actually swell up. Okay, so fun fact for you guys. Now, if you guys are, like I said, in the drier climate, you don't really have to worry about so much of it swelling up with the humidity and all that. But, you know, just make sure, like I said, your paint's out of the sun so it doesn't get sunbaked. So this kind of, you know, it's sort of a little bit different for you guys. You guys have a little bit different of an issue. But for you guys that have to deal with humidity, you might notice that you guys are barrel breaking. One of the reasons is that because as your ball starts swelling, if you have a smaller bore size than the paintball itself, it's going to cause barrel breaking. Now, if you don't know what bore size is, you will by the end of this video. So basically, the first thing that you want to check if you're breaking or chopping paint, as a lot of people say, if you're having those barrel breaks, the first thing that you can basically, one of the only things to do to fix it is check your bore size. Okay, I always tell people this time of year, check your bore size. And they're always like, well, what's the bore size? And the reason why is because the paint, like I said, is going to swell and be too big for your barrel. So as you're trying to shoot a paintball this big down a barrel this big, it's going to break and you're not going to be shooting anything. So basically, bore size is how I guess that you can say the diameter, I guess, will be the easiest way of how big your hole is. Giggity, okay? Some paintball barrels are this big, some paintball barrels are that big. I mean, it's not really that big of a difference. You're not going to be able to noticeably see it unless if you're looking like at a 6.95 and like a 6.75 or something like that. Then you might be able to see it. So I have all these different barrel systems laid out here. I'm going to go over how to bore your paint and all that stuff. One good thing about boring your paint is that it's going to be a little bit more accurate depending. You're going to be a lot more efficient. That's like the biggest thing about boring your paint. You're going to be a lot more efficient. You're going to be a lot more consistent, which is going to make it more accurate, I guess you can say. You're going to have more consistent shots over the chronograph. If you're shooting 6.75 paint through a 6.95 bore, your plus or minus might be like plus or minus 5 to 10. Okay, if you're shooting 6.85 paint through a 6.85 bore, you're going to have a really, really good consistency. So there's many different reasons why you want to have a good bore. But like I said, if you're shooting a 6.90 ball through a 6.85 barrel and you're pulling a mills, you're not going to have a good time. So I have all these different barrels laid out here that you might see on your average day. Basically, one of the first and biggest, most known ones that you guys probably have at least heard about is the Freak barrel system. This isn't an actual like whole Freak kit. This is off of the Vanquish that I just got. This is the barrel kit. And so I'm going to sort of explain it to you a little bit. So this is, it takes these stainless steel or aluminum inserts, okay? These are the inserts, and it's marked. This is a 6.95 barrel back. So if I want to use a 6.95 barrel back, I'd take it and I put it in there. Boom, I have a 6.95 barrel back, okay? Now this is your control bore, okay? They say the longer the control bore, the more, I guess the more accurate the barrel, or how it's going to shoot, and the more efficient kind of way. I guess, I mean, it sort of makes sense. The longer that the barrel is or the longer that the paintball is in this area being processed, I guess. I don't really know the word, but the longer that it's down here, they're going to say the more consistent it's going to come out. So people are really crazy about having control bore backs. So as you can see, this is out of my Bob Long barrel. Okay, this doesn't have that long of a control bore. Okay, so some people are going to say, oh, that's not going to be as accurate because you don't have as good of a control bore. On my boomstick, you can tell the difference between the control bore is effing huge. Is that why the boomstick I feel is more accurate? I'm not sure. I have many different reasons for. I have many different, ideas why. But it's a very big control bore. It's a very, very big control bore. It's a very big back. Okay, so that's what people sometimes call control bores. That's what I'll sort of talk about here. This is your control bore, your 6.95. Okay. Now, how you bore your paint, how you know if your barrel is too small, let me show you, is like, let me get one of my, this is, I'll go with 6.80, I won't even go to 6.75. So in the morning when you first get your box of paintballs, you're going to want to do this, especially if you have a Freak kit. You're going to want to take your paintball and set it on top of there. This is obviously too tight, especially if I can fling it out like that. This is going to be a little bit too tight, how the paintball is sitting right there. Actually, that's not that bad. I can sort of see a little bit of light through it because it's sort of oblong, but I just kind of blow it out really, really easy out of the barrel, and that's kind of, or out of the insert. That's kind of what you want. You don't want it to go. Now, that's just matching my paint up. Overboring, it goes right through. That's an overbore. Okay, that's an overbore. Like me taking this and putting it right there, this is sort of what people will say is matching your paint to your actual bore size. Because I don't have to blow too hard, I don't have to really push it through, it just sort of sits on top of the insert a little bit, just give it a little blow, and it goes through nice and smooth. Now if I try and take it, what some of you guys might be experiencing because your normal paint that you're shooting is swelling up, what a lot of you guys might be experiencing is this underbore, okay? So I'm having a really hard time pushing this through. Okay, so I really had to try and really blow that one out. I had to take my blowing skills and capability to get that bad boy out. That is what you don't want, okay? if you take your stock barrel or whatever barrel you're running and you have to try that hard to blow that paintball out, it's gonna get compressed and snagged up inside your barrel. It's just gonna break. There's just gonna be too much pressure. You have to think about how much pressure your gun is shooting at that paintball through this little insert. Okay, so if it's shooting that amount of pressure through this little tiny insert, that ball is definitely gonna break, which a lot of you guys are experiencing because of the high humidity, like I said earlier. So, and as the day goes on, as you start, and a lot of people don't use paintball caddies and all that stuff. So if you're one of the guys that plays with your paint with your hands and all that, you have moisture and sweat and all that stuff on your hands. So that's also going to affect your paint size. So as the day goes on, you might just want to double check and say, oh, let me double check my bore. See, that sort of fell in. That's not on the top. And it comes out nice and easy. But as the day goes on, this insert might not work. So at the beginning of the day, I'm going to say, great, this insert matches. I'm going to put this on. Boom, this is the bore size I'm going to shoot all day. That is boring your paint, okay? That is matching it. Some people like to overbore. Oh, I'm going to take the 8.5. It slid through. It didn't slide through too bad. There's not a bad gap, but I want a little bit of a gap in between, so as the day goes on, I don't have to mess with my bore size. If that's what you want to do, I know a lot of people that do that just go the next bore size up because they don't want, to have to rebore their paint in the middle of the day. That's all up to you. It's up to your personal preference. Me, I like to have a nice little bit tighter, more snug of a bore, and I'll just change it throughout the day. Okay, and it's the same. Those are inserts. That's the same with your normal barrel. Okay, this is a 685. I'm just going to try this paint too, and it goes right through. So this, to some people, is not good enough. Okay, so I would go to the next bore size down, which is not going to work because I already know what the next bore size down would be. The 679. I go and try to put that through. Actually, that worked out pretty good. So I would use the 679 for this one, which is right next to the 680. Okay, now if I try to fit a different size ball, and if you're shooting different paint or you change paint, that bore size isn't going to work. Okay, so you're going to definitely want to change your bore size, and this is a decently way bigger ball. Ah, there we go. That went far. But if you have to all of a sudden change your paint throughout the day, you're also going to want to check your bore size. That's sort of what we were having issues with in one of our last tournaments. Was half of us were shooting Marbleizer and some of us were shooting Hotbox, and then it all got mixed together. And some of our bore sizes, like mine, were from Marbleizer, but the Hotbox was a little bit bigger of a bore, so that would cause the chopping issue. So you want to make sure that your paint is consistent and not chopping, barrel breaking issues. So you just want to make sure and be aware of that kind of stuff. You don't always think about that different paint has a different bore size. It's not always the same. So just make sure that you double check that. And like I said, same thing with the Boomy. Okay, that is a little snug. You're going to push that through. I had to work a little bit hard for that one, but I totally use this in the morning, and as the day goes on, I definitely change it out. But that's basically about boring your paint. And for you guys that are having chopping issues, you want to first realize if it's chopping or if it's barrel breaking. Okay, because if it's chopping, that's a completely different subject, completely different video, off topic. This is all about bore sizing and all that stuff, and I basically think I covered it all. In the morning, check your paint. If you guys are barrel breaking still, go the next size bore up. And not all of your paint's always consistent, so you're not going to want to just take one ball and say, oh, that goes through, yippee doo dah. You're going to want to take a few other balls and make sure that they're all semi-consistent, and see that one sort of rolls through. So this is going to be a good bore. Now if I shoot a 675, sure, there's probably a weird ball in there, and if I pick up that one weird ball and put it in there and it's not as tight as all the other ones, you're still going to have a bad time. So you definitely want to get, you want to use a few balls to make sure that you get a good baseline, to make sure that you're actually using the right control bore. So I think that basically covers it, all about bore sizing and barrel breaking. I know a lot of guys have been getting sort of caught up on that and like the effects of it. More consistent, more efficient, better accuracy. I mean, I don't really know. Some people say control bores, well, the longer control bores are more accurate. I'm not going to get into that discussion. I'll let you guys go ahead and do that and talk about that. That's all kinds of different discussion topics and all that. So If you have any other questions about that kind of stuff, go ahead and message us, or message us on Facebook, post it in the comments, or ask us in the Ask Us Anything. That's where we answer 99% of our comments, unless if you ask on Facebook. So anyways, like I said, any more questions, hit us up and I'll try to clarify for you guys. But other than that, deuces.